Monday, September 12th, and this is your coffee break on the AJN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski. That was not me and Frank Granito, just in case anyone was wondering. But you will find out later just who those guys were. Just a few technical issues today, Frank. We were out on the road for a couple days, but now we are back bringing you the latest local news. We also continue our partnership with Silver Hill Hospital. We're going to be talking about chronic pain and opioids. And Frank Granito joins us for a Nutmeg Sports update, including some highlights from our weekend games. And he'll also have a look at the forecast. And of course, Donald Ang will join us later to take a look back on this day in history. But first, in Bridgeport, a man wounded earlier this year during a drug deal gone bad was shot and killed late Saturday night on Wells Street, according to the Connecticut Post. 22-year-old Emmanuel White was shot twice in the torso at about 11:04 p.m. in the area of 432 Wells Street. He was pronounced dead at St. Vincent's Medical Center, according to Police Captain Brian Fitzgerald. The murder marks the 7th homicide in Bridgeport this year. White was shot outside of an apartment building, and a motive has not yet been established. But police said they do not believe that the murder is linked to recent shootings that are connected to gangs operating out of the Green homes. And in other news, Fairfield police have charged the owner of an unlicensed daycare center with second-degree manslaughter in the death of an infant. Back on March 22nd, the Fairfield Police Department responded to 63 Edgewood Road to investigate a report of a 4-month-old infant who was unresponsive and later pronounced dead. In the course of that investigation, Fairfield police detectives discovered that Carol Cardillo, who lives at 63 Edgewood Road in Fairfield, was operating an unlicensed daycare facility out of her home. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner later determined that the baby's cause of death was acute antihistamine intoxication. The antihistamine drug, commonly known as Benadryl, should not be administered to children under the age of 2 and should only be administered to children between the age of 2 and 4 years old after consultation with a doctor. After receiving the autopsy, Fairfield police detectives worked in conjunction with the state's attorney's office, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, and several medical professionals. It was determined that probable cause existed to arrest Carol Cardillo. She is scheduled to appear in court on September 15th. And a motorcycle crashed Sunday during the annual Connecticut United ride to commemorate the 9/11 terror attacks, backed up traffic, startled onlookers, and caused some minor injuries. Hearst Connecticut Media reports that Fairfield Police Lieutenant James Perez said that as the group of bikers traveled along Park Avenue near Shirley Place at about 1:15 in the afternoon, a bike being ridden by 47-year-old Ephraim Medina of Bridgeport drifted to the left and hit an esplanade. Medina suffered a broken arm. A witness said the crash threw the ride into chaos as bikers who were traveling close together and in packs became jumbled and stopped, backing up the other bikers traveling behind. A group of motorcyclists tried directing traffic while others attended to the injured biker, according to a witness, adding that a woman appeared to have been hurt as well. Perez did not have any additional information about the other injuries during the Connecticut United ride, which traveled from Norwalk north to Bethel and down to Seaside Park in Bridgeport. And according to the New Canaan Police Department, 2 men have been going around to New Canaan businesses selling packages of Yankee tickets that are fake. Those are the men you saw at the beginning of the show. There they are. They demand cash only as payment. And if anyone has any information or is approached by them, they should contact the New Canaan Police at 203-594-3500. A former Stamford man awaits sentencing in federal court for shooting hawks. Images show a 63-year-old retired postal worker shoving the barrel of a pellet rifle into a cage before killing federally protected hawks on his Mother's Cove property in Stamford. The U.S. Attorney's Office released the photos last week that were taken from surveillance cameras outside the Weed Avenue home of Thomas Kapusta's mother. Kapusta of Westbury, New York, faces 30 months in jail when he's sentenced today in Hartford federal court for capturing 5 federally protected hawks and killing them in a trap that he set up at the edge of Holly Pond. Federal authorities say that Kapusta set up the trap to protect his flock of racing pigeons, which he used as bait to capture the hawks. Kapusta pleaded guilty in February to capturing and killing 4 red-tailed hawks and Cooper's hawks and 1 count of conspiracy to capture and kill another red-tailed or Cooper's hawk. Kapusta, who worked with the U.S. Postal Service for 34 years, faces up to 6 months in jail for each offense. And according to the Associated Press, a pair of crowded decks collapsed during a party at an off-campus house near Trinity College in Hartford, injuring about 30 people on Sunday. College spokesman Kathy Andrews said 28 students were taken to the hospital after the Saturday collapse, and most of them were treated and released by Sunday morning. Deputy Chief Brian Foley of the Hartford Police said authorities received numerous calls shortly after 11 at night Saturday of multiple people hurt at an off-campus house. He said a third-floor deck of the house collapsed onto the second-floor deck, which subsequently fell onto the first-floor deck. He said each deck was crowded with partiers at the time. And in Ridgefield, 13 houses, 2 commercial buildings, 5 residential condos, 1 commercial condominium, as well as 3 garages at a condo complex, and a package of 2 small slivers of undeveloped land, totaling 26 properties and owing about $1.3 million in back taxes, were posted for auction by the town of Ridgefield last week. According to the tax collector, it's painful and unfortunately something that needs to be done. The properties ranged in value from a commercial building assessed at $1.2 million to a tenth of an acre of vacant land assessed at just over $5,000. That tax auction is scheduled for Monday, November 14th, starting at 10 a.m. in Ridgefield Town Hall. During that time, the delinquent taxpayer may give the town what they owe on the property and retain possession of it, which would nullify the planned sale to the highest bidder at the auction. But there's a lot more on that story at theridgefieldpress.com. Let's throw it over now to Frank Granito for a look at the forecast. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. Should be another beautiful day outside today as the humidity dropped yesterday and we got what was our first taste of that fall weather. Plenty of sunshine and a steady breeze right around 7 to 8 miles per hour. Temperatures in the mid to high 70s and clear skies will continue overnight as we head into Tuesday morning. A little warmer tomorrow with an expected high of about 78 degrees, but still plenty of sun and a light breeze throughout the afternoon. Clear skies again Tuesday night with temperatures in the high 60s, but we will see humidity start to rise up just a little bit more as we head towards Wednesday. Temperatures on Wednesday will be up around 88, humidity way up. It is going to be very, very warm out during the day with on and off cloud cover. There's a chance for an evening shower later on in parts of the county. Clouds hanging out till about midnight on Wednesday, but we should see things clear up heading towards Thursday morning, and it looks like the humidity will go back down, Kate, as we get towards the weekend.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, when we come back, Frank's going to have some game highlights for us. Donald Ang will also be taking a look back on this day in history, and we have some more coming up on your coffee break after this. Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
Back to school means back to busy, and Stewart's Market can save you precious time by stocking all of your favorite essentials under one roof. For a healthy start to school, we have all the ingredients. Walter Stewart's, your family-owned fresh local market, 229 Elm Street and at stewartsmarket.com.
At the Ridgefield Suzuki School, we believe that every child can. Using the internationally recognized Suzuki method, children learn to play their instrument in an environment of encouragement, parental support, and community. The Suzuki approach seeks to develop the whole child, to help unfold his or her natural potential to learn. Private lessons and group classes are offered on violin, viola, cello, and piano for children ages 4 and up, and young children can enroll in their school's early childhood classes before beginning an instrument. The Ridgefield Suzuki School, nurturing a love of music in all children. Call us at 203-403-2667 or visit ridgefieldsuzukischool.com.
At Greenwood Physical Therapy of Bethel, individualized care, knowledgeable staff, and state-of-the-art equipment provide the best of orthopedic and sports medicine services. Our experienced therapists at Greenwood provide the highest level of knowledge and care. Greenwood accepts most kinds of insurance, and staff are there to answer your questions. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., the clinic serves the greater Danbury area and is a convenient drive from Reading. Appointments are available within 24 hours. Just call 203-917-4792 or visit greenwoodphysicaltherapy.com for more information.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. More than 1.5 million viewers have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment broadcasting since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
We are back on this September 12th edition of Your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, and we still continue to try to figure out what Donald Dang is going to include in his look back on this day in history. We make guesses before the show every time. Some of us are more successful at that than others, Don, but tell us what you got for us
Well, we'll
today.
see if anybody had an unusually communicative canine. But first we're going to go all the way back to 490 BCE. That is the conventionally accepted date for the Battle of Marathon, a battle which, by the way, saved democracy. The Athenians and their Plataean allies defeated the first Persian invasion of Greece. The probably untrue legend of dispatch runner Phidippides carrying the news 26.2 miles back to Athens, then dying of exhaustion, is the inspiration for the modern-day athletic competition of the marathon. To 1609, Henry Hudson begins exploring what is now known as the Hudson River. Though not the first European to see the river, that would be Giovanni da Verrazzano more than 80 years earlier, Hudson was the first to map it, sailing inland as far as present-day Albany. To 1940, while under German occupation, 18-year-old Marcel Revedat discovers the entrance to the Lascaux cave complex in France, and along with 3 friends, finds that the inside of the cave is covered with paintings. The paintings depict animals known from fossil evidence to have lived in the area at that time. They were made over a very long time, though, with those closest to the cave entrance thought to be about 17,000 years old. The newest ones, in the deepest parts of the cave system, are about 9,000 years old. The Lascaux cave drawings are the best-known examples of Paleolithic art. Finally, now we go to 1954, CBS television for this.
Starring Tommy Rettig as Jeff Miller, Jan Clayton as his mother, Ellen, George Cleveland as Gramps, and, of course...
That, of course, is Lassie making its television debut on CBS. The show would run for 19 seasons, and the first 3 seasons, when it went into syndication, as you saw there, became known as the Jeff's Collie series. Beginning in 1957, the 7-year Timmy and Lassie storyline is the best known in this show's history. Lassie would later spend 6 seasons with the U.S. Forest Service, then 2 more wandering on his own before settling in at the Holden Ranch for orphan boys in seasons 18 and 19. 6 different collies portrayed Lassie over the run, and despite falling into a gap between 2 railroad cars, a lake twice, quicksand, an abandoned mine twice, and a badger hole, the accident-prone Timmy Martin never once fell into a well, although Lassie herself did in season 17. That is your look back in history for today, September 12th, and I'm Donald Dang.
Wow, those are some fun facts there, Don.
Fun facts, yes.
All
He's
right.
quite accident-prone. He's lucky to have reached adulthood.
Yes. All right, thanks so much, Don. In other news today, Connecticut Better Business Bureau says the debate over the use of antibacterial soap at home has taken a new turn. The Food and Drug Administration has told manufacturers that they must eliminate 19 common active ingredients from their products or pull them off store shelves. Until now, that debate was centered on the risk of the creation of antibiotic-resistant bacteria from exposure to common ingredients in antibacterials. The FDA has ended the debate by banning the principal ingredients of hand and body washes, which is triscolin and trislocarbon and 17 other chemicals. The ban affects at least 2,000 different products, but for more information on that, you can check any of our HAN Network news sites. But let's throw it back over to Frank Granito now for a Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. The FCIAC football season kicked off on Friday night this past weekend, and the HAN Network was live at Tiger Hollow from Ridgefield High School when the Tigers took on the Trumbull Eagles. In what was an exciting night from start to finish, the Tigers rallied from a 17-point halftime deficit to defeat Trumbull 46-33. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from Friday night.
Live from Tiger Hollow, it is opening weekend for the 2016 FCAC football season. And we have seen the explosiveness and the experience on display as the Eagles down the seam, Roberta for the touchdown.
Too easy.
Make it 4-ease. Roberta's first score of the night. Ridgefield trailing by 17, but having some success on the opening drive. Empty set, Fowler throws off the back foot, looking for it up in the air, caught off the tip, Palmer for the touchdown.
Palmer comes down with the ball.
What a great grab, an athletic play. Almost a great defensive play by the Eagles there, but a great grab by Palmer.
Standing almost 6'3" as the give is inside to Woods. Hits a seam and now he's off to the races. Nobody's going to catch him. Marquise Woods, one play to the house.
Marquise Wood on the carry. Touchdown.
Wow.
We'll expect to see two plays. Fowler, design run play off the fake pass, heading for the goal line. Touchdown, Tigers. And there is life yet again here in Ridgefield. They will have to go for two, though. Looks left, pumps the bubble. Now he wants to go up top. He's looking for Lowe, going up for it, makes the catch, makes it a miss. Touchdown, Tigers. And we are a 2-point conversion away from a tie football game, Kevin Coleman. Fowler dropping back, looking over the middle, tries to float one. He's got Palmer in space, heading towards the sideline. Jumps over one man. Touchdown, Tigers. Well, they got going, Kevin. Fowler looking left. He's going to throw the long ball down the right side. He's got Lowe to the 5. Touchdown.
Shows how much I know.
What a gutsy call. 3rd and 17. Throw the long ball. And that is going to do it here. It's a 29-point run from Ridgefield to end the game. They come back from being down at 17 at the half. The final score, the Tigers 46, the Eagles 33.
So congratulations again to Ridgefield. Really an exciting game to get to watch. A tale of two halves, Kate, as we saw it completely turned around. We'll get to see the Tigers again on Friday night when they take on the New Canaan Rams. The HAN Network will be there for FCAC tailgate at 5:15, and we'll have coverage of the game starting at 6:50. But we got to call two games this weekend, Kate. We were back in action again on Saturday from Boyle Stadium in Stamford, where the Danbury Hatters took on the Stamford Black Knights. It was a bit of a slow game through the first 3 quarters, but things picked up at the end. We saw 2 scores in the final 3 minutes of the game as Stamford came out on top 22-15. Here's a look at some of those highlights.
Live from Boyle Stadium, this is the HAN Network's opening weekend coverage as we bring you the Danbury Hatters and the Stamford Black Knights. They bring Augusto in motion. It's a quick pitch out to him. Trying to find some blocks. Hits a seam, now heading for the right corner. Makes one man miss, and he's in for the touchdown.
You had no perimeter and no overhang play there.
Absolutely not. And what a great block. 3rd and 5. The give to Diaz. Running on that right side, following blockers. Makes his way through the original hole. Steps off one man. Big block there. Diaz tiptoes the sideline. Touchdown. Before that, though, it's 2nd and goal. Fake the jet sweep. Option pitch. Augusto working to left. He's got blockers and room. Cutting inside. Heading for the end zone. Touchdown, Hatters.
Rendered that discussion moot.
2:59 on the clock.
So if I'm in this
Low
set.
snap again. Vine's able to recover, and he runs it in. Incredible blocking. Titus James on that right side of the line leading the way. Taking the snap, Duncan. Looking to the left, comes back right. He's got a man on the wheel route, wide open, going up, makes the catch, and the 3-yard line. It's Nick Romanella. He caught the big seam pass early in the 3rd quarter. The give to Diaz, jumping to his left, driving for the pylon. Touchdown, Black Knights. And Stanford is back on top. It's knocked down, and it is over. The Black Knights come out on top. What a finish, John.
Congrats to Stanford again, and just 2 great games to get to cover for opening weekend. We are very excited to see what the rest of the FCX season has to offer. Make sure you tune into Nutmeg Sports today at 2 o'clock, where we will have more highlights from both of those games, as well as the rest of the FCX action in all sports from this opening weekend. That'll do it for this Nutmeg Sports Update. Let's send it back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, we are going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking with Silver Hill Hospital about chronic pain and sometimes the misuse of opioids related to that. That's coming up after this.
Warm weather, light breezes, boats are in the water. There's no better place to celebrate summer than the Dock Shop. Whether in Darien at 51 Tokenique Road or Westport at 609 Riverside Avenue, the Dock Shop is where you'll find everything you need to kick off summer. From the latest summer apparel to the newest fishing tackle, the Dock Shop will help you get the most out of your next beach day or harbor cruise. At the Dock Shop, you'll find a wonderful selection of items made in the USA and right here in New England, all with a distinct nautical flair. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the coastal lifestyle, this is a unique place to shop. DockShop.com.
A Better View Window Cleaning Plus has been cleaning glass all over Connecticut for over 20 years. They also specialize in cleaning chandeliers, mirrors, skylights, tiles, and will power wash anything that needs cleaning. They hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and are fully insured and bonded. When you deal with a Better View, you're dealing with the best, not the rest. Call today for a free estimate, 203-284-8836, or visit them online, abetterviewcleaning.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter, and I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
I'm Frank Granito.
And I'm Donald Ing for the HAN Network.
Tune in to Nutmeg Sports Monday through Wednesday, where we bring you all the top stories for Connecticut sports.
From players and coaches' interviews to expert opinions with local sports editors, no one gets you closer to Connecticut's games than Nutmeg Sports.
Nutmeg Sports, Monday through Wednesday at 2 p.m. on the HAN Network.
I'm Kate Czaplinski for the HAN Network. September is National Pain Awareness Month, and we're at Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan today to talk about chronic pain and the use and misuse of opiates. And I'm joined in that conversation by Dr. Seddon Savage of the Chronic Pain and Recovery Center here at Silver Hill. Dr. Savage, happy to talk with you.
It's a pleasure to talk with you as well. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Savage, let's get right into it. What are some of the opiates and opioids that are prescribed in cases of chronic pain?
Well, first of all, opioids are very powerful pain medications. They've been used for literally millennia. The first recorded use of opioids was back 3,000 years ago, and ironically, it was called the joy plant at that time. Since then, it's been a rocky road, as you know. Opioids are very powerful medications. They're powerful in healing when used well, but they can be very powerful in causing harm when misused or misprescribed. So some of the common ones, the original opioids were derived from the opium poppy and are still used today. And the naturally occurring opioids from the opium poppy are morphine and codeine. So very familiar names of medications for all of us. Then there are semi-synthetic opioids, which are derived from chemical variations of morphine, such medications as oxycodone, which you may know as Percocet, hydrocodone, often marketed as Vicodin, hydromorphone, maybe better known as Dilaudid, and those are semi-synthetic opioids. Then there are a number of wholly synthetic opioids, and those are such things as methadone, buprenorphine, fentanyl, and those are classified as opioids because they bind to the same receptors and they cause potent pain relief. There's some other therapeutic uses of opioids as well. Sometimes they're used for cough, and sometimes they're used for diarrhea as well. They have been over the centuries, though we have newer medications for those treatments. But for pain, opioids remain the most potent medications we have.
And let's talk a little bit about chronic pain and how are opioids used in the treatment of someone with chronic pain?
Opioids are used really aggressively for the treatment of acute pain, such as that following surgery, or if somebody has a motor vehicle accident and many fractures. They're also used aggressively for treatment of pain at the end of life. Their use in the treatment of chronic pain, that is chronic musculoskeletal pain or chronic pain that persists many months after surgery, or pain due to chronic medical illnesses, is somewhat more controversial. It's clear that there are some patients who do well over a long period of time using low to moderate doses of opioids, but many patients don't do well over time. Opioids, when they're used on a long-term basis, opioids have some properties that can be problematic when used long time. In some patients, there may develop tolerance to their effects so that you need higher and higher doses, and often people will get greater side effects on higher doses. We also know that higher doses across the population are linked with higher rates of adverse consequences such as overdose, and also the development of increasing pain. That sounds contradictory, I know, because they're such great pain relieving medications, but they are known to create something called hyperalgesia, or hypersensitivity to normal stimuli that then become very painful. So over the long term, for many patients, opioids can be problematic. And here in our program at Silver Hill, we find that some patients do quite well. In fact, will have less pain or no more pain, but a higher level of function when we taper them down and often off of opioids. That said, there are a subset of people who do very well long term. So it's controversial. You read lots of different things. We aim to find balance in the use of opioids long term, but we find most patients do well with other approaches to pain treatment. I think you'll hear about some of those from my colleagues.
Now, Dr. Savage, what is the link to addiction? You hear a lot about opioids and addiction. How does that occur?
So, like all substances to which people can become addicted, whether we're talking about alcohol or cocaine, marijuana, opioids, opioids produce reward or euphoria in a very ancient part of the brain. It's called the limbic reward system. And that center in our brain is very, very important to survival. If you think about pleasures in life, food, drinking water when you're really thirsty, sexual activity, it's very important for the survival either of the individual or the survival of families and communities and the species. So this is a powerful part of the brain. It's necessary to survival. And these drugs which produce addiction stimulate reward. Now, many people will have a glass of wine or might use illicit substances now and then, not recommending it, but they might, and find that they enjoy it, and then they stop. If they have to get home to their families, or they have an exam to study for, or need to get to work, they don't continue to use alcohol or other substances to excess. But in some people, that reward may trigger changes, neurobiologic changes in the brain that create almost a drive state, a craving, a need for that substance. It feels like it's necessary to survival. So it's a very powerful kind of calling. And over time, that limbic reward center recruits other centers in the brain, the centers that drive motivation. Normally we want to support our families, we want to put food on the table, we want to enjoy our time with other people, but the drug becomes more important than all those things that we would normally enjoy. And so memory and learning centers, motivational centers, start serving that limbic reward center. And it's very challenging to treat. It's treatable. Addiction is treatable, and we have good outcomes with appropriate treatment. But opioids seem to be particularly prone to inducing that kind of addictive attachment more than things such as alcohol, for which certainly for some people that's a huge problem, but more people who use opioids for the purpose of reward, not necessarily for pain, but for the purpose of reward, when they start misusing them to get high, a greater proportion of those people will develop challenges with addiction than persons who use alcohol, say, on an occasional basis to experience reward.
Now, Dr. Savage, you mentioned earlier the risk of overdose and the concern about that is related to opioids. Can we talk a little bit more about that and how that could occur?
Yes, as we mentioned before, opioids can be powerful for healing when used well, but they have harms associated with them. We've talked about addiction. Another one of the harms that they can cause is overdose, unfortunately. And opioids do that by suppressing the brain's drive to breathe. As levels of carbon dioxide rise in the body, normally if you hold your breath or you stop breathing, carbon dioxide rises and signals the brain that you need to take a breath to get oxygen into your body to get rid of excess carbon dioxide. But opioids suppress the brain's responsiveness to carbon dioxide, and people slow their breathing down. And if they have too much opioid on board, they can actually stop breathing. If you stop breathing, there's less oxygen to your heart, and eventually your heart stops beating. So that's how opioid overdose occurs. Now, we do have a remedy for that if somebody catches somebody whose breathing is very, very slow and they're not arousable. Using an opioid antagonist, the most common one is naloxone. Commercial name is Narcan, and you've probably heard about real efforts to get Narcan out into fire stations, EMTs to use it, people who use opioids to have Narcan in their home. So if somebody's slowing their breathing or they've stopped breathing but their heart's still going, you can reverse that opioid effect. It blocks the opioid's effect, and somebody will wake right up and begin breathing again. Some people are more at risk for overdose than others. Certainly we know that persons with a history of substance use disorders may be more inclined to overuse their opioid and be more at risk for overdose. There's certain medical illnesses as well, particularly respiratory illnesses such as sleep apnea or COPD, which in combination with opioids may put people more at risk for respiratory arrest.
Now, let's talk a little bit about someone you care about, someone you love. What do you do if you suspect that they might be experiencing some issues with opioids and addiction?
Well, first of all, it's important to recognize when there are problems. When we use opioids, we expect somebody to feel better, and if they're feeling better, to become more active and more engaged with things that are important in their lives. So if somebody's prescribed opioids, but they're complaining more or they're sedated a lot of the time, they seem less engaged, less interactive, not going out, I'd be concerned that something is really wrong and they may be developing a problem with the opioids. There may be other explanations as well, but it's worth bringing up with them and with their healthcare providers. Treatment is available. Finding a drug and alcohol counselor can be helpful. More and more people in the recovery community are getting involved with helping people who seem to have active addictions or problematic relationships to substances, including opioids. I don't know if you've heard about recovery coaches, but many people in recovery are now getting trained. And if we have we estimate that over the course of a lifetime, about 10% of people have a risk of developing addiction. So as we train more people to be helpful and intervene with other people in society who are having problems, that may be a very powerful source of support for families and communities. But finding a licensed drug and alcohol counselor, talking to your primary care physician or the individual's primary care physician is also very important, because clinical healthcare providers can't help if they don't know that there's a problem.
Now, what do you suggest? Because a lot of people do have in their medicine cabinet maybe some opioids. How should they secure those? What's the right process?
Okay, so that's very important. We know that about 70% of people who non-medically use opioids, and that's using it for a purpose other than intended or using somebody else's opioids, a prescription that wasn't given to you, about 70% of people get their opioids from family and friends. And so sometimes they're shared or given to somebody, but very often they're simply taken from a medicine cabinet or from the soccer underwear drawer, which is the most common place that people hide their opioids. So just hiding them, thinking you've found a good place, is not enough. We really recommend that people get a medication safe. They're available at many pharmacies, and lock your medications when they're not actively in use. You can't be sure who may be diverting opioids. Young people, children, teenagers may divert out of curiosity and not know how dangerous these medications can be. So education is important too if you have them in the home. But the other thing that I'd recommend, I think locking the medications is important, not letting too many people know that you have them. It's really nobody's business. Your spouse you may want to know, some care provider, your healthcare providers, but not broadcasting that you're using these medications, locking them, and being aware that almost anyone can divert, either out of curiosity, out of addiction, or other things.
Well, Dr. Savage, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's very informative, and thank you for all the great work you do here.
Well, thank you so much for your interest. These are really important issues, I think, and I appreciate your covering them.
Thank you. All right, you can find out more about our partnership with Silver Hill Hospital at han.network.